You're listening to Talking Law, the podcast where business owners just like you discover how to avoid legal landmines and build value using smart legal tips.
Hi, it's Joanna Oakey here and welcome back to Talking Law, a podcast proudly brought to you by our commercial legal practice, Aspect Legal. Now, this is not just a normal, regular episode. It is very, very special because today we celebrate Talking Law's 100th episode, our centenary. Last year, we were very lucky to have reached our 100th episode for our sister podcast, The Deal Room. And right now, thanks to all of your massive and undying support, Talking Law has just done the same. So thanks to you, our listeners, we are able to do what we love, and that is giving you clear and simple legal strategies for getting to optimal business results. So in today's episodes, I really want to quickly reflect on our top 10 most popular and downloaded episodes which have really impacted you, our listeners, since we started Talking Law. Do you have an episode in mind that might make the cut? Well, let's find out in ascending order from the least downloaded to the most downloaded. In the top 10 spot, landing on the 10th spot is episode 3, so our very third episode, understanding the new unfair contracts legislation and how the legislation impacts your business. In that episode, we talked about brand new legislation that's really important for business owners to understand and managers or anyone dealing with business contracts. It's also important for you to be on top of if you're a business advisor, because that new legislation was absolutely a massive change that was relevant for your clients. So it's a really great thing for you to make them aware of. So if you didn't hear that episode, then head over to episode 3 where we talked all about the new unfair contracts legislation and how the legislation impacts business. Now, of course, the legislation isn't new anymore, and word around the traps is there is more changes that are afoot at the moment. But the unfair contracts legislation was really and is still really relevant to business. So if you're not across all of that, head back to episode 3. Now, in 9th spot is episode 25, where we talked about the common mistakes people make in the area of trademarks. And of course, we had on board Grace Yee, our resident trademark expert. So in that episode, we discussed how important it is for us to be talking about the mistakes that people make in the area of trademarks, because we, sitting here in the position of lawyers who deal with trademarks day in and day out, see issues that come out of these mistakes on a daily basis. And of course, making mistakes with your trademark registrations means that you create a massive impact for yourself and your business down the line. So if you're interested in that, or you're not sure if you have made any mistakes, or your previous legal advisors may have made any mistakes in the area of trademarks in your business, then head over to episode 25. Now, on spot number 8, we have one of our older episodes, episode 2, investigating the different types of business structures and how to know which is best for you. Careful planning and choosing the right structure for your business makes a lot of difference. So in that episode, episode number 2, we talked about the different structures, the pros and cons, and what action steps you can take. And this is a really important episode, and I can understand why it's probably coming up in our top 10 here as number 8th highest listened to episode out of our last 100 episodes. Because business structure is one of those areas that can cost businesses so much money if they get it wrong. Now, obviously, we do a lot of work working with businesses at exit as well, and we really see firsthand how much money businesses cost themselves by the wrong structure. Now, of course, structure is not just about money and about tax and the tax you can save, but that is one really critical element. Of course, there's also asset protection, income distribution, lots of other things to be thinking about with structuring. And sometimes it's just also about keeping it as simple as possible, because by George, I sometimes see some doozies, which can be a real problem, particularly at exit. All right, so next up on our rundown of the top 10 episodes is the 7th spot, episode 27, Legal Traps in Marketing 101. This is where we really looked into whether your marketing strategy is within the legal bounds. So in this episode, episode 27, we talked about 5 tips that you need to keep in mind to keep out of the legal traps in marketing. And of course, that's a really important episode for you to listen to if you're really active in social media, if you have lots of people who are making comments on your social media or on your website itself via comments, and if you are creating marketing that might be a little bit edgy. All right, so now we're up to 6th spot on our list, which was episode 23, Loose Lips Sink Ships, Defamation and its Consequences for You, with the fabulous Claire Gallagher. So in this episode 23, we talked about what the elements of defamation are and what to do if it happens to you or your business. And this was a really interesting episode because we actually had a run of defamation matters straight after this episode. So testament to the fact that everyone's listening in, great to hear. But also defamation is quite a tricky area of law. It involves a publication in any form whatsoever about someone that might be considered to cause harm to someone else. And as I said, we had a bit of a rush in this area of law after we released that episode. So hold the phones, we could be about to go for a new rush once again. But if you're interested in defamation and hearing us give a little bit of a rundown on that, head back to episode 23. Now, next up is spot number 5, episode 6, where we talked about the clauses in contracts you sign, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And there certainly are some ugly clauses in contracts that we have seen businesses sign in the past. And of course, we as lawyers are the ones who have to sit here trying to deal with the mess that comes about from signing agreements where there have been ugly clauses that may not have been fully appreciated right in the beginning before they were signed. So in this episode number 6, we talk about the top things that you should be looking out for in contracts that come across your desk, and we talk about the risks of glossing over the detail. I think this is a really important episode to also just understand what is it that can be a risk in your contract and what are the things that are most likely to land you into trouble. All right, so landing on 4th spot is our most popular trademark episode since this Talking Law podcast has started, and that's episode 5, Trademarks 101, The Basics. Now, trademark registrations are one of the easiest and cheapest ways to protect a business. And so in this episode, we delve into the basics of this area of law. And it's really important because we go through a number of things that really need to be considered in relation to trademark registrations as you're making them. But it also looks at the mistakes that are made. And we also debunk some common myths in the area of trademarks. So in that episode number 5, we're really looking at the basics. Right, now we all know it's really important for anyone who deals with contracts to understand everything that's in the contracts. So for our 3rd spot, we have episode 11, Understanding Commonly Used Contract Terms. And in that episode 11, we run through some common boilerplate terms and explain what they mean. And this is a really useful episode if you deal with contracts regularly or even sometimes, to give you a bit of an overview of what some commonly used contract terms actually mean and when they're appropriate and when they're not. And in spot number 2, we're almost at number 1, but spot number 2, we have episode 13, Demystifying Indemnity Clauses. Indemnity clauses. Yes, they're one area that I'm asked about most often, I think. And I think that's because indemnity clauses often carry an enormous amount of risk that can often far exceed the value of a contract. So in our episode all about demystifying indemnity clauses, we explore the main risks in indemnity clauses that you might be signing. And on the flip side, we also explain the way to use indemnity clauses to best provide protection. So, highly recommended. If you are ever caught in a situation where you need to understand a contract that might include an indemnity clause, and hit tip, almost every contract you come across will include an indemnity clause. And it's really one of the most misunderstood clauses, I think, in contracts as a whole. So go listen to that one, episode number 13. And finally, drum roll, our most popular talking episode since Talking Law was launched is episode number 1. The very first episode, which is really embarrassing, really. It probably sounded pretty crap. Now I'm through what the two podcasts combine, around about 240 episodes. I've had a lot more chance to practice, but I'm actually scared to even go and listen to what episode number 1 sounds like. But apparently it's popular. Everyone likes it best. The one that gets the most number of hits, not just in the beginning, but right now, people are going back all the time and listening to it. And that is the 6 top legal landmines in business. So in our very first episode of Talking Law, we discussed why being on top of legal issues is so important. And we did a quick run through of the top 6 legal considerations for a business. So that's it. That's our top 10 episodes. Did your favourite episode make the list? Were the ones you thought should have been most popular here? Let me know in the comments whenever you see this episode, because I'm really interested to know what your favourite episode was, or even what you thought was most useful and revealing. And feel free not to add how crap my very first episode was. In sound quality, hopefully the information itself was very useful to you. Well, that's it. That's the end for today's 100th episode of Talking Law. And I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you to you, our listeners. It's been a really fun, exciting ride doing these 100 episodes. I'm looking forward to the next 100, but I really want to hear from you. What is it that you would like to hear about? In the next 100 episodes, I'm really keen to focus more on some of the risks that we see popping up on a daily basis on our desks, where we're having to fight the good fight for our clients, but wishing that we could instill information in everyone, in all businesses, right from the beginning to help you proactively avoid them in the first place. So we'll be talking about a lot of cases in the next 100. We'll be talking about a lot of mistakes, and we'll be talking about a lot of proactive measures that you can put in place. So don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed yet to Talking Law, so that we can be delivered straight to your phone or your other podcast player, of course, every time we release a new episode. And once again, I just want to say on this 100th episode, thank you for listening in. You have been listening to Joanna Oakey and Talking Law, a podcast that is very proudly brought to you by our commercial legal practice, Aspect Legal. See you next time for 101. Are you looking for a top quality legal team to assist you in your organisation? Aspect Legal is an innovative commercial legal practice that specialises in providing fast and professional services for their clients. If you'd like to chat about how we might be able to assist you, simply head over to our website at aspectlegal.com.au to book in a time for a free discussion with one of our lawyers.
Thanks for listening to Talking Law. Tune in next time for more smart legal tips and tricks to keep you clear of those legal landmines. If you want to get a download of today's show notes, head over to talkinglaw.com.au.
Are you looking for a top quality legal team to assist you in your organisation? Aspect Legal is an innovative commercial legal practice that specialises in providing fast and professional services for their clients. If you'd like to chat about how we might be able to assist you, simply head over to our website at aspectlegal.com.au to book in a time for a free discussion with one of our lawyers.